Hi. Time to code some more weird game stuff. Let's recap what happened last time. I made the camera move in a circle using a bunch of scripting stuff. So that's really nice. But fixed camera movement is kind of meh. So what I'd like to do today is implement proper controls, expose them to the Lua, so I can make the player fly around like in the previous test module, but this time run from a script. And I'll probably need to fix a few things, such as the fact that the mouse can do this, which is a little bit atypical for a first-person type of affair, because most humans cannot pitch their head like 1080 degrees. Some can, I wouldn't doubt, but in general, that's not a thing humans do. Very nice. And this is the script that does it. It makes up a speed. It's just a sine cosine circle. And it sets that as the camera speed. And in the game module, it binds that function in Lua to this very simple lambda that sets the speed. And in the update function, the position gets added the speed, multiplied through by the frame time. So that's that. To implement controls, I just need to make something that handles the controls, and then I need to add some functions into Lua for querying them. So the way I did it in the test module was I checked keyboard is key pressed with a bunch of letters. So I want to encapsulate that in a class because this kind of stuff is a bit hacky, and eventually I'll need to implement things such as redefining the controls, that sort of thing. But for now, it doesn't need to be, it can be hardwired that like W is forwards. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Okay, let's get coding. I touched a new file called controls.hpp for header file and controls.cpp for the source file. Excellent. Let's add them to the project. Here we go. Paragma once. So what do we want in this file? We want a list of buttons. So it should be an enum class. Enum classes are kind of nicer, but I'm gonna probably use an array with indexes being used for the enum. So I'll probably use an enum, but then at the same time, if I have buttons called like up and left, that's a really annoying enum to make. So I'll probably choose the weird third option and make it enum inside a namespace. So you still have to do button up or whatever. But it's like a classic enum. It'll cast down to integers very easily. So what do we got? Forwards, backwards, left, right, and I had a speed. Oh, I'll make that a jump, because everybody likes to jump around, especially in video games where it doesn't take effort. I imagine it'll be more put like use and click, right click, left click, stuff like that. But since I don't have a super fixed requirement right now, let's just keep it simple. And then just like in the olden days, I'll put a count at the end. So now I can do button count to find out how many buttons there are. It's not a real button, it's a pretend one. I'll make a controls class. So what does that need? It needs a function to update the buttons with the latest info, and some query functions. I might make a little struct state. Button state. Is the button down, as in, is it being pressed? Or is it being held down? And swap. Is the button's state different from the previous frame? Okay, so we want an array of button states, and we want that many of them. So now we've got storage for all of our buttons, and because they have initialized themselves to false, they're all good. Let's implement controls update. So we're going to update the controls here. Now, normally you need to do bindings and check a bunch of keys and stuff and all that, but let's just do it really, really awesomely. So first thing we want to do is we need to store the so if it's swapped, it means it's changed from the previous one to the current one, as in it was down and now it's not, or it wasn't down and now it is. So swap is true if it's down, XOR'd with if it's previously down. So we just need to use these two booleans to calculate the swap, and the state has 2 booleans. So the first thing we do is we're going to say the swap is the down value, and the new down value is false. And then we're going to find out what buttons are pressed, and then we're going to iterate through them again now that the down values have been updated, and we're going to do state.swap XORs, because that's got the previous down value, and we want to XOR that with state.down. So that'll handle the swap values. This is actually kind of pretty easy, so I'm expecting something to go wrong. So is the key pressed? Why am I writing this again? I already wrote it here. If you type something once, you don't need to type it again. So if SF keyboard is key pressed, SF keyboard key W, I want to say M buttons button forwards dot down is true. Now I could just say buttons forward down is that, which yeah, I probably will. I shouldn't use an if statement. when it's not really branching, or it doesn't need to branch. People just, they use if statements a lot. There's one thing I see a lot in programming, which is always irks me when I see it, which is where people do if condition return true, else return false, and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, first of all, you don't need an else if you return. Also, this is a completely pointless construct. Just return the condition. Anyway, that's my miniature rant over. So forwards, backwards, that's going to be S. Left, that's going to be A. Right, that's going to be D. Jump, that's obviously going to be left shift, because that's what I like to use. I cannot complete the thing here because I did not include the header file for the keyboard. There we go. Okay, so that'll update the controls. So now we have some controls and a way to update them. Let's see if that compiles. There. Compile. It compiles. I've had a lot of luck with streaming. I've had a lot of things compile. Usually when I'm doing programming stuff, you get stuff wrong. I think habitually explaining everything I'm doing as I do it out loud is forcing me to think carefully, and thus, wait a minute, I've just jinxed myself. The very next thing I do will be completely wrong and it won't compile. Well, whatever. The best way to meet your mistakes is head on. This has a private pointer but a running variable. Interesting. Anyway. Alright, with window we've got modules, mouse capture mode. I want to put the controls in here. Cool. Now, the game loop. We're going to update. Cool, so now we update the controls. Let's give it a shot. Well, I'm pressing some buttons and presume that it's doing something. Who knows? Seems like fun. What we need to do is allow this stuff to be queried by Lua. So the run class, which handles the game loop, needs to be able to expose the controls. So controls, we'll just make it straight up say controls. So just make a function that just spits out a pointer to the controls. That seems legit. One problem I could see is that might be a dangling pointer if your module continues past the lifespan of the run thing. That's not really a concern for me because the run is the game loop. Once that finishes, the program is exiting. So any modules will already have finished what they're doing. If I'm lucky I might get it to crash by doing that. Okay, cool. Now we have an init thing. We can do mscript.bind. So it is button down to, for this button. So is that button down? Well, space is annoying. Well, we don't know because I never put anything in the control class to query it. Well, let's go do that. Okay, is down. Seems like a pretty cool thing. Should I make it an int button or should I make it button type? I mean, it's gonna be an int, but let's just make it the enum for moral reasons. Is button swapped. Okay, so there's two. Now, maybe I could make like a. I mean, it only has 4 states: down or up, and swapped or not swapped. So it's 4 states. I can make an enum. Just encapsulate the whole state to Lua rather than having to call for multiple things. Or if it was really smart, I'd have made my Lua script handle multi-returns, which is something Lua can do no problem. But today, let's not concern ourselves with that. To be honest, querying the controls isn't going to be like, you're not going to spend 5 milliseconds of the frame querying controls unless you have a lot of buttons. Like you have 55 keyboards plugged in. I don't know. So is that button down? With absolutely no bounds checking, we can say m buttons button dot down. But that seems really bad because we're going to expose this to Lua and they can just put in, like a Lua script could just say anything. It could say, well, what about button 27? Well, that's going to cause problems. There is a bounds checking function. Where is it? In standard array, you can use at. It throws an out of range exception. Oh, I don't want to do that. Not an exception. They're the worst. Well, let's just do our own. Bounds checking. There we go. We bounds checked it ourselves. Sloppy, but guess what? It works. Does it work? Or maybe I did it wrong. Let's double check what I just did. Yeah, it looks fine. Okay, so is the button down? Let's include run and include controls. So we get the controls. That point is not going to change for lifespan. Then we want to return the controls. Controls. C. I'll change it to C. C is down. The button. There we go. Swapped is button swapped. Button is swapped. Cool. Let's build that. Whoa, whoa! Invalid conversion from int to button. I just had a moral dilemma about that, and then I didn't even react. Okay, well, we're gonna cast it to a button type. There we go, easy peasy. Cool, and that's bound check, so it just return false if you put something stupid in. But let's try and make it not be too stupid. I'm gonna make a little Lua table with the buttons. What did I say they were? Well, let's pull them straight out of here. Forwards, I'm not using capital letters in Lua. I'm using camel case or whatever it is. Here we go. Some sound effects. Yeah, it's a little bit. You put trailing comma in Lua? Can you do that? Whoa. Lua does something else. Lua. A is 5, 6, 7, comma, and yeah, you can. Print A. KV in pairs A to print KV and. Alright, you can put trailing comma in Lua. That's nice. I don't know that. But you can. Okay, cool. We've got some buttons in Lua. I'll put them in a little library there. Got the game. So now it compiles. We're ready to look at the script a little bit. Player controls. If is button down, button dot forwards. So it's like local speed is vec3 of zeros. Speed. So let's just say that. Okay, we don't need a circular thing anymore. That can just go. Button down forwards. Whoops. You need to put then in Lua. That's how it works. Also, your parentheses kind of need to match. Well, let's set the speed to the X speed. Well, let's just set it to 10. Not particularly good. Okay, so that does not work. Just for clarity, I was not pressing the button there. That just did it all by itself. Okay, stop. So presumably, it does think the button is down. Yeah, but the button's really not down. So, all that compiling code was nonsense. It betrayed me. So presumably it's calling through to here. Let's just double check. I could do debugger stuff, but I want to press the buttons and see the results. So. Ain't nothing wrong with just spitting stuff out on the command line. If it helps you figure it out, it's good debugging. It just prints 112. 112. It's really 112? No. No, it's 127. It's 38. It's 202. That's very interesting. I'm not exactly sure. why it would be saying that. Now I need to look at the debugger because that's confusing. Where's the mouse pointer? Wow, the mouse pointer is made invisible. What do I do? Oh, I don't want to go there. I got a mouse pointer. I can see it. It hits the left side of the screen. Is it still bounded within the app? Okay. No, go back to debugging. Okay, whatever. There's the controls and buttons. I've not used this debugger much. 5 items, sure, but what are they? I'm not. This is getting called with the button backwards. Whoops, I think I just broke this. Whatever. Yes, I've made at least one obvious flaw, and that is these should be indexed from 0 because that's how enums work in C++. It doesn't help. It still thinks a boolean is equal to 96 or whatnot. Oh, now it's 0. It's getting random nonsense out of there, which makes me think this stuff is giving invalid pointers. Is that invalid? I feel like it should be valid. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Yeah, that is totally invalid. Oh, because it was taking a reference to C. A reference to a pointer, which is then going out of scope. So I could change it to what's the capture for, is it a plus? Captures. It's the automatic capture. I know ampersand is capture everything as a reference. Equals, that's it. So I set this to equals. It should capture the pointer to C as a type. As a value type. There we go. Cool. So now when I'm pressing the button, I move. And that's debugged. So I don't need that. And I don't need that or that or that or that. So I can now move along the x-axis. Yes. I feel like that's what I did on the test module the first time I did that. Maybe. I can't remember. Right. After that short break, what was I doing? Oh yeah, I was gonna sorting out my dressing now. A little bit warm. I was going to get the controls working. So there's another thing missing. This is all very nice, so that does what it does, and that's great. My somewhat nasty mouse capturing that I'm getting more and more annoyed with due to its perpetual stealing of the mouse pointer and making it invisible. That needs to be exposed to Lua as well. But how? Well, I could bind a function that queries it. That's usually what I would do. Only slight problem is it comes in this vars. So I guess I could just pass it in as yet another parameter, which feels a little bit I don't know. Feels not very nice. What I should do instead is... No, I can't think of anything. I'll just pass it in as a parameter. So we've got the vars dot mouse position as a vec2. There you go. Straight up going in. Yeah, the script can only do vec3s because I never wrote code for vec2. So I'll just cast it to a vec3, which you cannot do because it's not exactly GLSL. So we'll put Y and just 0. Okay, cool. So now everything we need is in Lua. And that's great. I never got highlighting for this working. Let's make a big block comment down here. And go back to our test module where we wrote all of this code. It's not much code. But it is working code. And this is kind of horrible to do without actually having working highlighting. Oh, let's just see. I just want to get the highlighting working because generic highlighter, download definitions. Oh, darn. That was the exact same thing I tried last time. Doesn't matter. Right. Local cosine of the pitch is going to be math.cosine of mouse.y. Local forwards. You need to declare variables local and Lua if you want them to be local. And that's going to be a vec3. So it's going to be cp times math.sine math.x negative math.sine math.y cp times negative math.cosine math.x. Okay, local right is again a vec3. Of math. So the code at the bottom of the screen is C++. I'm rewriting it in Lua. And that'll just take a second. I don't really need to talk much whilst I do it. So there's a forwards vector and the right vector. And then I set the speed value, and then I do a bunch of stuff with position, but I actually have the speed as a vector now. So not only am I Not only am I hacking it, I'm going to be changing it. So speed is how fast it does it. Camera velocity. No. It's cam speed. It's going to be 0 to start with. That's local as well. Now local speed is 10. If is button down, button dot jump, then speed is actually going to be 25. And now that stuff has gone off the bottom, let's tidy up. So this is done, that's done, and I just need to adapt this. If you're pressing forwards, cam speed equals cam speed plus speed times forwards. There's no plus equals in Lua, there's no anything in Lua. Lua is just a very, very small compact language that's quite fast. Backwards, so we want to subtract 0.9 times speed times forwards. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. I've been thinking about it for a few minutes. So if we're going left, well, let's do right first. We're going right, then we want to add speed times right. And if we're going left, subtract speed times left. And that's that. Okay. So, if everything works, then we should have... Okay, that... So... Okay, there we go. Bizarrely, that started on the other thing. Okay, let's... attempt to index a number value. Test Lua 30. Oh, look at that. It is a number, isn't it? Yep, that works. Strafing. Oh, look at that. We got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A hexagonal. Very lucky days. Oh, and another hexagonal. Truly, it is a blessed time. Also, the flying around thing works. So that's good. There's no collision detection. But here we go. I'll make it big. Whoa, whoa. We can fly. We can fly outside of the room. And see it from the outside. Which is just a mess. All good. Lovely. Well, that's a whole bunch of stuff. I might cut it short tonight because I think next up I want to do a pretty complicated bit of code. As always, let's check the changes. Enum for the button. New code for Lua that actually does things. Controls. And some bits and pieces inside the module for the game. I'm cool with that. There we go. Push that straight to the server where it goes to. on Bitbucket. Right, this is pretty cool. So with that, this test CPP module has no content that is not now split up and duplicated elsewhere. So you know what that means. It means it's going. Gedit. Yeah, goodbye. You are out of here. Boom, it's gone. I'm gonna make it clean because deleting part of the thing it's got partially built will only upset it. Oh no, it doesn't build because it's trying to include it from main because it did have it here and now it does not. It's gone. It's gone forever, except it's still there in Git and also preserved eternally on these lovely streams. Cool. That's what I like to see in a diff. Just a sea of red. You've deleted a whole bunch of stuff. Remove test module. You'd served this well, but your function is now complete and you are gone. Moment of silence for a fallen comrade. I'm not going to pour water all over my desk though. Okay. So what's nice about having this in a script and just being sensible is that I added these buttons and this part onto the update call, and that allowed the script to implement full player movement. That's pretty nice. And of course, this totally depends on what script is running. So if you want to do a slightly different movement, or make the player jump higher, or make the player run faster, or fly like a helicopter, or anything, it's all done via script. I'm a big fan of pushing game logic into scripts because that's awesome. Okay. I'm a bit tired, so this thing ain't going to go on for much longer. But we can look at Trello. I feel we're still on this lower capabilities thing. I really want to get an entity component system going though. So I'll just talk about that for a couple minutes. So if you have classic entities, you have some sort of base entity class. That's nice. You have some base entity class, and then you make, whatever. Here's your player. Here's the enemy. I've started running joined up. Okay, or whatever, you get stuff. But then you get the problem that you want a feature to be common to certain enemies but not others. Like maybe you got like an enemy and then you got like a dog. Not necessarily an enemy dog, it could be friendly. And then you want like an enemy with trousers, and then you also maybe want a dog with trousers. And then you can make like a trousers component and try and like lead into some component. It kind of works if you have only like a few things, or if you have really rigidly designed classes or a lot of composition. But the entity component system is a lot better because you just define. Or I say it's a lot better. It's a. No, yeah, I shouldn't be so lacking in confidence. It is objectively better than anything in the world. There you go. I feel I used humor to deflect. I think it is better than just a object hierarchy for game design. So you know you'd have whatever, a person component, and the player could be a person, and the enemy could be a person. And the dog could be an animal component, more legs. And then you could have a trousers component. And you mix and match the components you want to make up an entity. But that's all by the by. What do I want to do? I want to make it really nice. So entities should be an integer. Your entity ID is your entity, so your entity is just 17. It's got no classes, no hierarchy or functions or anything. It's just a number. And there's some components which are going to be structs. Pod structs, plain old data. And it can have one of each component. I know some entity systems let you have multiple copies of components. I don't want to do anything that crazy fancy. I'm just going to make it real simple. You can have a component or you can not have a component. These components, they're going to be C++. But what components you have is going to be Lua. So if you make an entity and you want certain components, you don't want others, that combo of components is going to be decided at runtime. I can't just use templates to figure out all the types of entities that I'm going to use in the game. It's going to be runtime, which is fine. And what else to say about this? I'm going to use archetypes. Archetypes. So if you have some entities and say they have some sets of components, entities that have the same sets of components, say they're just the same type, maybe it's an enemy that's just got the same components as his fellow enemy because they're the same. Or it could be two entities that are unrelated but happen to have the same components, whatever. The key part is these entities have the same component, they're going to get put in the same part, in the same structure in memory. So you could have one list of all the entities that are just an audio sound, or all the entities that are model with a sound and also trousers, or all entities that are just trousers, or all entities that are, you know, whatever. So we need to dynamically build lists based on different combinations of components that will be suggested at runtime, and these lists will store the components for that entity in sequence in memory. The reason to do it like that is because I think it's the easiest way of storing stuff. Like you can do stuff with like component tables and like really nice things with structs of arrays rather than arrays of structs, but it's all pretty fiddly, and it's especially fiddly to do based on runtime stuff. I've done something similar with an entity component system in a previous project, so again I'm going to be copying from myself in the past, but I'm going to be working through it again and trying to improve it. The previous bit of coding I did for this scripting stuff, for this which is a bit template-y and heavy, was based on previous code. So that's it's going to be like this, but probably even more heavy on the templates, because I need to do some pretty fun things. But that's for another day, because it's late and I'm tired. So before I go, let's just check everything is up to date. It is. Just have a little last look at the project before I sign off. Go to bed. Oh, that's nice. Wow, it's got a lot of screen tearing. I presume that's due to OBS. Oh, you know, there's one thing that we really need to do. Let me add it. Fix the dang game loop. And I'll tell you why that needs done. And I don't need to tell you. Show, don't tell. That's the key of visual storytelling. What if the frame rate was 10 frames per second? Because my machine is terrible. It's not that terrible, but it's not that good. Oh no! Now that the physics logic is updating at 10 frames per second, it looks bad, despite the fact we know it can render faster. Oh, that's not good. It should be rendering as fast as it can, and the logic should update at the speed the logic updates. 50 frames per second is quite nice. Might be 60. It's just set to 50 because I like that it divides 1,000 slightly nicer, but it'll probably be 60 when I bother changing it, unless I play it at 50 and it feels good, in which case maybe I won't change it. I can do anything. I'm in control of this project. Anyway, something to add to Trill. I'll deal with it later. Oh, I'll deal with it after I do the entity component system. Okay, anyway, I'm rambling, so I need to go to sleep. Thank you for watching. I will see you around.